when men stop brushing their teeth, that those men who do, that's actually like a flashing red warning sign that they are in a state of depression or even considering suicide, because um, when you stop taking care of your teeth, I guess it's a way of a little bit of self-harm. And when a person's in that mindset, you can kind of see it based on how they're taking care of their oral health. Well, my dad used to use a mint spray. He stopped brushing his teeth, for years, and he would only use a mint spray, and that was it. And so when I realized that, I shared it with Kyle, and our mission it just set ablaze for something much bigger than just, hey, let's just take endocrine disrupting chemicals out of products. It now became a much bigger mission and vision for the company.
Welcome to the Beyond Physio podcast, where we help you move, excel, and inspire others on your journey to your next level with knowledge and advice from experts and testimonials from our like-minded community. I'm Dr. Jerry Yu, CEO and founder of Next Level Physio. On today's podcast, I interview Joe and Kyle, the owners and founders of the legendary men's care products company. We had a great time on the show, and among many things we talk about, I want to point out that, listen, if you're a guy over the age of 40, or maybe your wife is listening to this episode, tune in, because we talk about some very simple ways that you can optimize your health, especially as you get older, and different ways to prevent man boobs from happening, like changing up your products, such as toothpaste, shampoo, and soap. So you might get a laugh out of this episode. And as always, please like, share, or comment. Thanks.
Whew.
You just said it all.
We are doing good, but Kyle and I are, sales are really just pumping, and we're just awesome. Like, all right, we got to order, 20,000 tubes like ASAP. So it's like, we got some other products that we're coming out with too. Yeah. So it's just like, all right, cash flow, and so we're in this game right now.
Oh yeah.
So
good
it's
problems.
All good though.
Of course.
We know that God is our supplier, so He's called us to it. So we'll we know it won't take us out, but we'll get to where we need to be and be able to fund all this stuff.
Yeah. Joe, let's go back into a couple things. I want to share with our audience about yours and Kyle's origin story, how you guys started with Legendary Men's Care, because it's a very interesting journey from our last discussion.
Absolutely. So Legendary Men's Care. So let me just bring it back a little bit. I'm just going to bring it back out for those who can't, who might be listening and not watching. There's a number over my shoulder here, and that number is 105. And that number actually represents the amount of American men, who have taken their life every day in America. And so this is something, when we started Legendary Men's Care, we really revolved our mission. It's actually evolved around this number here, because when we started it, we have a serious passion about helping men really achieve their best health, thrive with their health, their hormones, with their lifestyle. We know that there's so many chemicals that are packed in the name brand stuff that we use as hygiene products. And something that was really interesting was Kyle and I were trying to find a toothpaste for ourselves that we couldn't find one that didn't include tea tree oil, lavender oil, which both of those ingredients are shown to enhance man boobs, gynecomastia, and which is pretty shocking when you read it. You're like, whoa, okay, so I'm putting this in my body. I'm a guy. That's the furthest thing that I want, happening on my physique. And we all know the chemical junk that is in most of the name brand stuff, the fluoride and all these other chemicals that wreak havoc on a man's hormones. So Kyle and I started there, and we're like, trying to find a product. We couldn't find one that worked for us. And so we had to go to the drawing board and begin creating. And that's really where Legendary started. But along that journey, my dad actually took his life, and it was just this tragic, didn't really see it coming type of a thing. And that led me down a rabbit hole of trying to find, okay, what what are the warning signs of suicide? Because I knew my dad was in a bad spot. He was struggling with low testosterone, sleep apnea, depression, which can stem from both of those, and just he was on lots of medications, all these different things. But like, what are the things that I could have looked for to avoid that? And that is when I actually found that when men stop brushing their teeth, that those men who do, that's actually like a flashing red warning sign that they are in a state of depression or even considering suicide. Because um, beginning to, when you stop taking care of your teeth, I guess it's a way of a little bit of self harm. And when a person's in that mindset, you can kind of see it based on how they're taking care of their oral health. Well, my dad used to use a mint spray. He stopped brushing his teeth, for years, and he would only use a mint spray, and that was it. And so when I realized that, I shared it with Kyle, and our mission just, I mean, it just set ablaze for something much bigger than just, hey, let's just take endocrine disrupting chemicals out of products. It now became a much bigger mission and vision for the company.
That's remarkable how you progress from trying to find products that would benefit you as men and men in general, and how this sort of unfortunate tragedy happened in your life, Joe, and that actually spurred on this bigger movement, like you said. And it's powerful because it seems like all along this was part of the direction that you're going to be heading in, and now you had more fuel to the fire in a good way to start on this mission to help men with their health.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's continued to evolve. Kyle and I are just incredibly passionate about not only helping men with by eliminating these types of products, hygiene products that are full of chemicals, full of even endocrine disrupting natural oils. We say this all the time inside Legendary Men's Care, which is just because something is natural does not mean that it's good for you as a man. We just like to think that just because there's natural ingredients in there, that it's something that we're all okay taking. It's just not true. And that's just evolved from, okay, we're creating and producing these epic products for the guys in our community, but how can we take that further and begin to speak in their lives and create an environment of, or community of just brotherhood and you know uh, fatherhood, and speaking to these things, and then providing other products for other health related things that men face. So it's really evolving. We're in the early stages. Obviously, we've only been around really officially for a year,
It's
but it's
amazing.
really evolved.
Yeah. I love that you have this mission towards men's health. And I had mentioned this on other episodes for our podcast, talking about the obvious importance and value of taking care of our ladies as well. And women's health is really, really important, of course. At the same time, we do know that men die sooner than women do. And we do know also that men tend to ignore things for longer for whatever reason, whether it's embarrassment, whether it's a fear of not being able to either provide for the families, they're just not ready to face that fire or not. And I feel like these types of movements can really be beneficial for the guys out there who might be suffering, who might not have a way to connect with other men, for that matter. And if you have a community of guys too, so they can actually feel like they're part of something, and where they can share their hearts, share their worries, anxieties, concerns, because we all have them, truthfully. And I know for myself, there are times when I don't want to share things with my wife because I know that things will cause some stress in the house, and I know that I can take that on. But there are times when I know that connecting with my guy friends and other friends of mine in business, that is my outlet, and having that community is so invaluable, not only for men who are entrepreneurs, but also men in general.
Absolutely. It's amazing what men can talk about in a room of just men. that we can't really, seem to vocalize. Again, for most of the time, it's for good reason. We don't want to bring any concern to the family or anything like that. We don't want to show that, hey, there's something we're concerned about. And I do think it's obviously important to have a vulnerable relationship with your spouse
Of
because
course.
she's your counterpart, and the right spouse is there to support and just she's that partner that is your better half. You could say
Amen.
that, and that may or may not be true for some guys, but I know for me it is.
For me too.
And just to be able to have that relationship there, but a lot of times it's just when you really get just around men and be able to have that community and environment where you can vocalize and also just know that everything that we talk about is coming from the core of us being men
Mhm.
who just want to help other men.
Yeah.
And I think there's something powerful with that.
I think so too. And I know that with culture these days, I understand toxic masculinity. I don't support that or condone that either. But there are plenty of guys who just want to be the best men they can be. And those are the kind of guys that I know you want to support. I also want to support and be a part of as well, because I think those are the men who are going to help lead the next generation in positive ways that can help balance out what's already out there in the current culture. Kyle, can you tell us more about how you got into? I think you're more the R&D guy in Legendary Men, right?
Yeah, I just have always enjoyed like product development and just digging into the research and finding, the best ingredients. And with the case with the toothpaste, we actually have a dentist on our board that we were able to consult and, get his feedback. And he loved the formula. And we worked with chemists that were able to develop our formula. And so that's where we're going with other products too. We're actually working with a few companies right now for like some mouthwash and shampoo and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I specialize in is the R&D process. I come from a background in like the hospital system, and I have some chemistry background, so I understand the fundamentals of that.
Right. You know, what's interesting, and I was sad to hear that lavender was on that list of things that make you have moobs, because I just happen to love it. Is there sort of a threshold at which, like, hey, if you are taking or using this much lavender per day, this is where it becomes very harmful for guys in particular?
Um, or you want to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah, I can take a little bit, Kyle, and then I'll let you go from there if you want to. So when we look this up in the studies that are published in the U.S. National Library of Medicine, there wasn't a specific amount that they said in the studies, but it was related to topical lavender that was being put on boys who are still developing. So teenage guys, and it was shown to increase gynecomastia.
Mm.
There's also studies around tea tree oil as well
Yeah.
that you can look up in terms of what is the acceptable range or not acceptable range. To be honest, when we take a stance of, look, if this has any sort of anti-androgenic effect, then I don't want it in my body. Just and I don't really like to use extreme examples, but
Hmm.
we can think of an extreme example in terms of cigarette smoking, right? Like if you know that it causes lung cancer, again, very extreme example. I'm not comparing, this to lung cancer and cigarettes in a way where it's that much of a terrible case scenario. But why would I smoke a cigarette even for a week, even once a week, if I know that there is a negative effect? And when we're talking about using products that we're putting in our body every single day, for example, toothpaste, we're brushing twice a day. It's going through our gums. It's getting into our bloodstream. You do swallow a little bit of your toothpaste, even just from just the liquid and saliva that forms. So like you're putting this stuff in your body every day. So again, there's no studies on, hey, what is the impact of this after X amount of use and whatnot. But we do know that these oils are anti-androgenic, and so it's like let's just kick them out of our kick them out of our bodies altogether. Think about soy as well, right?
Yeah.
People were thought soy was this amazing health food, and it
It's a
was in
great
milk,
example.
it was
Yeah.
in everything.
Yeah.
Um, and now you see that soy has these incredibly high estrogenic effects in men, and it's even not a healthy food for women. So again, those are some examples, but that's the approach we take with all of our products is look, if there's research pointing in this direction that it's going to have some sort of a negative effect on testosterone levels, fertility, gynecomastia, then let's just eliminate it altogether. And that's actually one of the things that people can count on with Legendary is that we're actually going that deep into the research. And there's actually several man brands, and I find this funny, but also sad at the same time, that, for example, have lavender soap. And here you are, just rubbing it all over yourself, rubbing it down below, right? Where,
Yeah.
processes and things are being done to create testosterone. I actually, there's products, even testosterone labeled supplements that have sleep supplements that have lavender in them.
So you're almost
And
negating.
so some people will do whatever they can to do kind of a markety thing or like whatever to try and sell their supplement or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, how deep are you diving into how each ingredient is going to affect you?
Mm.
We try to do our best to get to the nitty gritty of what this ingredient, and so we try to do our due diligence with everything we put out.
I like that. One of the things you mentioned also, which actually got me surprised, is there's definitely I guess, a controversy between using fluoride and not using fluoride that I've known since the beginning of time. And I know there are dentists who are on the side of saying that we don't need it, and others that are saying that we do. And I obviously there's some confounding stuff there where it's like, well, who's supporting what research and that sort of thing. From your own research, and I know you have a dentist on your board, what have they said about not adding fluoride to the toothpaste that you guys have?
Hey, I can take that one. So uh, basically, what we used instead was the nanohydroxyapatite, which actually has been shown in studies to be just as effective and in some cases even more effective than fluoride.
Oh wow.
But the ADA and stuff doesn't recognize it yet. They haven't done the studies required. So, you know, the dentists go big on like whatever the ADA approves of, the American Dental Association,
Sure.
and because they won't yet put their approval on something without fluoride, then that's kind of where the dentists, they go wherever the research goes, and we understand that, but there is a lot of health concerns with fluoride. There's
Sure.
endocrine disruptor concerns. It is
Nervous
toxic
system
to
too.
swallow,
Exactly.
and kind of like to go back to Joe's point about the cigarette thing. I mean, I I get that it might be good for your teeth. There is even debate. Some people debate that. I'm not saying I debate that, but if it is harmful, like, do I want it at all? If there's an alternative I can be using,
Right.
and that was my take on like the nanohydroxyapatite. Is like, I mean, this is an alternative that seems to be working very well. Why chance it? Why not just provide that alternative to fluoride for people that are looking for it? So that's the approach we took on it, is just let's play it safe.
Yeah.
And just to add in 2 cents there as well, the dentist who's on our board, I actually reached out to him and I didn't know what he would say because he was a dentist.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to him and discuss our toothpaste formula, and I would love to see his feedback and see what he says. And I was expecting the whole, oh, you anti-fluoride tin hat wearing, kind of, people and all this stuff. But I was really surprised with the response because it turns out that Dr. Greg was experiencing some issues with low testosterone himself, and he said that one of the first measures he started taking was removing endocrine disruptors out of his everyday routine. And when I showed him the formula, he was incredibly excited with the formula, and he said that this is actually a fantastic formula for many reasons. It's just like your traditional toothpaste has all of these benefits, except it doesn't have these endocrine disruptors from these chemicals, like fluoride being one of them, among others. So it was an interesting kind of coming together. And now we have Dr. Greg on our board who advises all of our oral care products that we're also currently in works with. And he is 100% behind the mission and what we're trying to do naturally to help give men a great smile, obviously take care of their oral health, but behind the scenes also keep their body free from the endocrine disrupting chemicals found in everyday products.
What I love about the concept of Legendary Men, Joe and Kyle, is that you guys, although it may seem like, oh, it's just toothpaste, you're really trying to affect the whole person. It's not just about this part of the body. It's like, what else can we do in our products and in our mindset as a business to help the whole person, the whole man as a whole? And it really mirrors our approach at Next Level, where we try to really focus on the whole person. And it's not just about your elbow, your back, or your shoulder. It's, what do you want to get back to doing? What is that you love that you have not been able to do? And how can we help you to get to that point again, if not better than ever, is really the goal that we go after. And when I think about this, I think about what we talk about in our evaluation. We ask questions like what their sleep is like, their nutrition, all these things that they aren't being asked by other providers. But when I think about even their oral care, I find that this is probably a good question that I'm going to ask too. It's like, what do you use for your body care? And if they mention some of these things that you mentioned are that are endocrine disruptors, I'm going to say, hey, listen, based on what we know, these are things that you probably want to eliminate. And maybe the reason why you've been in pain for so long, because we know testosterone is also a really good healing agent. And this might be one small part of a continuum of things that you can do to better yourself, not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally as well. So I'm really excited to promote this product in particular to our audience, just because I know there are a lot of women and men out there who are listening to this who might be wondering how else can we optimize ourselves if they happen to have a husband who has been having low T. This might be one more thing they can add to their arsenal in their battle to get more optimized as a man approaching their 40s and 50s.
Absolutely. And I think there's a phrase, maybe I just created it, but the mouth is the gateway to the body, right?
Yeah.
And so not only here's kind of the catch 22 that we run into in sharing this. Some guys will say, "Oh, well, I'll just stop brushing my teeth," right?
It's not where we're
But
going to
the
go.
thing is gum disease is actually very common in men, which is interesting. But it's very common in men. However, it's also one. Gum disease is also known to cause erectile dysfunction. So it's amazing how the this lining up here in the mouth, these gums can affect down there, right? It's like, so
Wow.
again, the mouth is the gateway to the body. Likewise, Kyle mentioned that we're going to be coming out with a natural mouthwash. It's actually going to be a powdered mouthwash. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But the like Listerines and stuff like that, what do people use when they want to help take care of their gums, right? They'll likely use a Listerine. Well, I hate to say an actual brand name, but they'll likely use the antiseptic type stuff,
Sure. Over the counter.
um,
Yeah.
over the counter type stuff. And what that actually does is that kills the good bacteria in your gums that are responsible for helping produce nitric oxide in the body. So what does that do? That affects
Exactly what that does.
erectile dysfunction. Okay. And it also, those types of agents have also been shown to increase risk of diabetes, increase risk of heart disease. So you can see how the mouth really is the gateway to the entire body. And so that's also another reason why we decided to kind of plant our stake there and start there, and then branch out into providing other products that can really help men as well.
I love that. And it's funny you mentioned that because I remember in Chinese medicine, a lot of the acupuncturists will actually do a tongue diagnosis. So what you're saying sort of coincides with what I've seen in the past, where they can have an idea of what they need to address just based on how your tongue and your mouth look, and it tells them a lot about the general health and state of the person they're seeing.
So I've loved fitness, my whole life. I became a personal trainer at 20 years old. I'm 33 now, so I've been doing that for 13 years. And one of the things, like I bring it back to my dad, because one of the things that I was really um, wanted to do when I started off with personal training was help get my dad back in shape. Um, you have to understand, like, when you're when you're impressionable, watching your dad go from this powerhouse of a man to eh, I don't, I always want to honor him and who he is. But he became a shell of that version, and just seeing that decline, it's pretty apparent. And what you want to do is you want to try and help somehow, because you see that there's just something disconnected. And so that was one way I tried to really kind of put my foot in the door and help there. But what's interesting is I told you I was in my early 20s at that time. I didn't understand what it was like to be a guy in his 50s, early 50s, late 40s, 60s. Like I just didn't understand. And one of the ways in which my dad would communicate, sometimes we talked about earlier, sometimes as men it's hard to kind of express what we want to say. So he emailed me, actually, and he was in the room across from me. So I get this, I'm sitting there, in the living room, he's in the dining room, I get an email from him. He told me that the reason he didn't want to start working out is he's scared of having a heart attack while he's working out, and that's, so as a young man, I never would have understood that. But what I realize is that, okay, there is a disconnect between me and being able to understand, 20, 30 plus years of life experience of having your body go through so much more stuff. It's a totally different kind of experience at that age. And that ultimately led me into creating Live Anabolic, which is my fitness company. And the whole purpose of that was to serve men like my dad. But the thing is again, being a younger guy, I felt like no one would really take me seriously, that I knew how to help, you know and so that's why I was able to bring on two incredible guys who are really the faces of the company, the product creators of the company, the content creators of the company, because no one can speak better to a men in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond than a guy who's actually living it. And these guys are actually living it. They've got the six pack abs, they're doing it healthy, they're natural, which is something you won't find, a lot. So they just live the lifestyle, and they're full of knowledge, and so that's really what it led to. But I think it's so important. I feel like older guys just get almost pushed to the back burner. Like, it's like, okay, the market share in the fitness space is like 90% women. They're buying the diet pills, the healthy foods, they're doing the this and the that, and the men are either just kind of following along with that, or like it's being segmented to younger men who want to look good to get the girls, right? Well, what about the older guys who have more experience and who want to live longer and have families, that they want to be there for all these special moments and all these different things? It's just really, there's not a lot of resources out there. So that's why I decided, hey, this is why I want to serve. There's something seriously missing here. And it's been a 7-year journey with that company. So it's been really exciting.
Joe, I can appreciate you mentioning that older age men's group because I'm going to become part of that group very, very soon. And so I can tell you that my male clients who are also in the same age group, 40s and 50s, all we want to do is just maintain what we have and be the best that we can. I'm not looking to set new records or new bench press records or anything like that, or new deadlift or anything like that. I do want to lift heavy, but I want to make sure that I can do this for the next 30 to 40 years, God willing, that I'm still on earth and not have any kinds of restrictions as a result. And obviously, I also want to prevent man boobs too along the way. So I feel like definitely what you're doing on several fronts is going to be very effective for the men out there who are listening to this show.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to the passion of why we do what we do. You know, it all comes back to that. And we know the effects of fatherless homes, right? So when men aren't in the home, we had a meeting yesterday, and Kyle started expanding on this as a in our team meeting. But we know the effects of when men are not in the home. It's tragic. When when whether it is suicide, whether it's a heart attack, which is the common disease that takes men out. And obviously, there's men leaving the home early and not stepping up and rising up and being a father. But we see that ripple effect, and it's not a good one. I mean, it leaves a wake of devastation for the family, and so it's really coming from that place of wanting to serve men, because we know that if we can help keep men healthy, have better longevity, all these different things, then their families are going to be impacted by that as well. So we're doing actually more good than just helping men. We're helping their families and those who look to them as, hey, that's my dad. He's the leader. He's the one I'm going to follow. Well, how great is it when your kids get to see that you're following a habit of a lifestyle of eating right, of working out, of applying these self disciplines, of not just accepting the norm and just following the pack, but instead, going against the grain. In this case, in the case of Legendary Men's Care, using products that are natural and healthy and are designed just for men, instead of just grabbing what everyone else is grabbing off the shelf and not asking questions. So it's a powerful way to live, and that's what we want to. That's what I want to encourage in both companies for all the men who are coming into our communities, is to be able to provide some sort of source of that.
I'm glad you mentioned that as far as the transcending effects of having an active father figure in your life. Even for my daughters, for me, I gotta be honest, I am kind of concerned about the kind of kids who are out there these days and what they're into. And I know that the best thing that I can do is just set the right example for them, whether it be in how I parent them, how I speak to them, how I work hard in my business to show that hard work is a good thing, even in my faith and even fitness. So lately, the last couple of weeks, actually, last couple of months now, with my daughters, we've been going to the gym together, and this is if you've had teenage daughters, which I think you guys will get to one day. Uh, there's a lot of like, I don't know if I want to do what daddy's doing kind of thing, but they're at a point now where they are wanting to do these things. And so it's been a blessing for me to take them to the gym and actually help them to get stronger and show them that strength is a good thing to have for a woman, for many different reasons. But to your point of having an active father figure in your daughter's life is massively important for the next generation.
Your kids won't remember what you said, they'll remember what you did, or something along those lines. And it's just so true. And that's really a part of the DNA of who we are, and what we do and what you do as well. And again, the ripple effects. I say this all the time. Like, there's that phrase of generational wealth, but we also believe in generational health here at Legendary and at Live Anabolic. And really, our examples should benefit the generations coming behind us. And even being like, look, I'm not going to let my son use the traditional toothpaste that's on the shelves, the traditional soaps, the traditional shampoos with the parabens and all these, the BPA, phthalates, all this stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm as a father, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to watch out for his back the best that I can, because I have a son. Kyle has a son. They were very young. So again, that whole generational health thing, it's in our hands to affect that for our kids.
What do you guys do for your own fitness? Joe, I know we mentioned lifting and stuff like that. Kyle, I think you said you were into running and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually do just at home fitness programs. So right now that's where we're pretty busy right now. So it's like what I can do. I can jump in the back room and do some weights real quick. But I'm hoping to get into some more stuff later on. But right now that's where I'm at.
So thankfully, because yeah, we're super busy, and so I wasn't able to make it to the gym as often. So Kyle, being he's a handyman, and I'm not. I'm like the furthest thing, and that's another thing. Like we don't judge masculinity based on who can use a hammer better, right? It's so much deeper than that. Maybe I'm just say that for my own sake. Um, yeah, but Kyle actually installed a whole workout system. We ordered a bunch of stuff, and then Kyle installed it in my garage. So my typical workout will be split where it's a kind of a push pull day, which is so you're thinking of along the lines of bench pressing and shoulder pressing and possibly deadlifting, pull ups, things like that. So that'll be one day. I'll do legs the next day, and then I'll do because I'm some macho ego guy. I guess I'm doing arms. Yeah, I'm dedicating one day to arms. Okay, and then I'll take a day off. But what I've found is I'm trying to do a little bit more cardio because I grew up with that more bodybuilding mentality of muscle, muscle, muscle. But I want to make sure that I'm working, this muscle, the one that I'm pointing to over my chest here, the heart, because I'm just realizing that to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish in life, longevity is the game. It's not necessarily who's looking better in what shirt or whatnot. I do think that that is kind of an exterior. You can get an idea of what kind of shape I'm in or whatnot in terms of we can all do a self reflection. How do we look in the mirror? What does that mean for our health? But also underneath that, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of my heart and doing the things that I can do to be around longer for my kids, for the dreams and goals and ambitions that are on my heart to do. And so I've started to do a little bit more zone two cardio, which is in that 60 to 70% of of your heart rate. And I've found that that's really not taxing enough on my body to where it feels like I'm not taking a day off or I'm overtraining. I feel like I can actually, if time allows, I can do my strength training workouts. My rest day, I can actually do my zone two cardio and it doesn't wipe me out. Unlike before, I would do interval training and that would absolutely wipe me out. So, anyway, I've just trying to find a nice balance and it seems to be working well for me. But honestly, the best thing is, do what is working for you. With that said, and I'll just throw in this little thing. Yes, you could do what's working for you, but no, it's working for you. Like, for example, if you're going to be doing a bunch of running, bunch of jogging, and that's your routine, you're not doing strength training. Well, you might think that that's what's working for you, but is that really the best thing? That's why it's so good to, like Jerry, for people to reach out to you about any sort of consulting with maybe what their current fitness routine looks like. Because just because you're doing, yes, it's better than nothing, but you can still be overtraining. You still can be doing too much cardio, which does have an effect on testosterone. I know this because when I used to do long distance running, when I was training for a half marathon, I started beginning to experience the symptoms of a man with low testosterone when I was 24. Hit me like a ton of bricks. And I hate that Kyle's on this call because my wife is his sister. Okay, so but I'll just say when I was 24, I got hit with these side effects of low testosterone from doing so much cardio that let's just say as a newlywed, not good. Okay, so anyway, again, that just goes back to the whole idea that just because you think something's working for you, how are you measuring that? And you might want to get a second set of eyes on what you're doing and if it's really the best thing for you.
Absolutely. And to your point, a lot of our endurance runners have actually adopted more of that zone two, and they found that they can actually go the distance, if you will, without having all these injuries. Number one, they're actually getting better performance results in the races, which is great because people thought, just if you're going to run, just run really hard all the time. And science is differently, so that's been good. But also, we have found that our triathletes and runners have benefited more in their performance and injury prevention, especially our guys in their 30s and 40s, when they add strength training to their workouts. And we've had some crazy success stories about people hitting or getting past plateaus and hitting PRs they never hit before just by adding strength training in appropriately. So, to your point, definitely some value in having a professional set of eyes looking on your program to make sure that you are doing what is best for you. Even though what you are doing may be good for you, we want to make sure that it is absolutely the best combination of things for you to get the most out of your workouts.
Yeah, it's that phrase of throwing out a lot of phrases today. Good is the enemy of great, and we can do things that are good for us, but we want to do things that are great for us. And so that's why getting a second opinion from someone like yourself, Jerry, always a good idea.
So, as we come to our close soon, I want to know what your guilty food pleasures are. I know we've talked about all about these healthy things and keeping care of your teeth with all these great products that you guys have. What is your go-to food when you need to have something to comfort you? Kyle, you first. I'm gonna have to try that soon. I do actually. We talked about this on another podcast. Was I'm a donut fanatic, so I'll get a glazed donut, cut it in half like a bagel, put it in the toaster, let the heat just a little creme brulee ish on the top, right, and then add vanilla ice cream. It is ridiculous, out of this world. Yes. So you can add the chips in there too now, Kyle. How about you, Joe?
Well, you took mine, Jerry. Donuts. Donuts, 100%. I've not tried the toaster trick, but I will definitely have to try that now.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else that you want to tell our audience before we go into how we can promote your product?
Um,
Um,
Go ahead, Cal.
I did create so we have a coupon code for your audience. It is for 15% off of the whole order, and it's just NL Physio. So just NL Physio, and put that in at checkout, and you'll get 15% off. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and I would just, leave off saying that to all the men who's listening, that you matter. Um, you might not hear it enough from your kids. You might not hear it enough from your wife. Definitely not from your boss. But I can tell you that the world is so much better with you here and living in it than it is without you here. And wherever you're at, I encourage you to take those steps. Wherever you're feeling, take those steps with your fitness, with your health. I promise you that as you do those things, you're going to feel so much better, and you'll be thriving in ways that you likely couldn't imagine. So keep it up, keep going. You absolutely matter to your family, and you're loved, whether it's said enough or not.
Thank you so much, guys.
No problem.
Appreciate you, Jerry. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. It really does mean a lot to us. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or comment if you got at least one or two helpful insights or takeaways to help you get to your next level.